Good morning, evening, afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the final day of Lunarcon, and I did not get some good sleep last night. I don't know why, but I just could not fall asleep. So it might be a shorter stream today. Always shorter, partly because today is going to be a shorter day in general, because closing ceremony is today. But also because I feel like I'm coming down with something. Who knew you could get con flu from a virtual con, right? It's probably nothing though. I think my voice is just a little shot from talking a lot and yelling and yeah. Just like stressing it because the past few weeks I have not been talking all that much. So, and your voice is a muscle, much like the rest of your body. And if you don't use it regularly, you don't exercise it, and then you go all out one day, that is going to cause it quite a bit of stress. So I don't think it's con flu. I think I just shot my voice because no streaming for several weeks, and then 3 days in a row of streaming, talking constantly for like 20 hours. Not in a row, but yeah. Anyway, I'm in a hum line right now. Hello. I did a slight adjustment to my VTuber avatar to reflect how tired I feel. I'm good, I'm just a little tired. Full transparency, I am going to stream shorter today so that I can get some proper rest afterwards. Thank you, Rival. But yeah, right now, very soon is going to be a glamour competition. I'll tune in for a little bit, but I mostly want to tune in to a special panel involving D&D and Final Fantasy XIV, which is something I have been interested in. Running a 14-themed D&D game. Which I am very, very interested in. Hey, Connor. So that is in 45 minutes. The glamour contest is in 15. I'm gonna go line up for the panel. Let's see. Lunarcon. It's so useful to have this website. I can just like, whenever I don't know a thing, I don't need to bug anyone or ask. I can just like check the site and then there it is. So convenient. Thank you, Ellen. Oh, it's purely going to be streamed. It's not at anywhere. Okay. Made class race options for 5e. Yes, I've seen, I think I've seen that. I think Yaroshin linked me a thing. I think it's... But let me see. D&D 5th edition X Final Fantasy XIV. Yeah, here's the one. Yeah, they added all the in-game races. You might have to miss it. That's okay. The VOD will be available. Blade Singer Wizard. Yeah, that one's really cool. Is War just Bear Totem Barbarian? I mean, I guess you could like reflavor. The thing is, D&D is so, at least 5e is so versatile that you can reflavor a lot of the official material already to fit in the 14. Because D&D's classes are not as constricting as 14's. So you could just reflavor. This homebrew is just for people who want 14 style features and traits in their D&D. Yeah, Paladin is just Paladin. Although they have made a Oath of the Sultanate or something like that. For, you know, if you wanted to truly be like 1-to-1. So let's see. Yeah, Oath of the Sultan Sorn. And they get things like they can channel divinity to cover or ultimatum or something. Now, where D&D does not translate, and I think they'll say this during the panel as well, is the MP system and spellcasting. Spellcasting in D&D is very limited compared to Final Fantasy, because Final Fantasy, your MP bar is essentially a stamina bar. It is the energy that you have left in order to cast, and it comes back fairly quickly. Whereas in D&D, spell slots do not come back quickly, and the only spells you can cast rapidly are cantrips, which are not that powerful. But yeah, I think Shen might be streaming the Glamour contest, so we can tune into that in the meantime, at least catch the beginning of it and see what's going on before we tune into the D&D panel. It's happening very soon, in 10 minutes. I'd argue Blade Singers are just as much Red Mage as College of Swords are. Yeah, there's a lot of overlap, you know, like, there's a lot, you can reflavor anything, really. Like, Davi made a character that very well could have been made with Mastermind Rogue, but it was a College of Glamour Bard instead. But either could work, you know. The thing about flavor is flavor can be put into anything in D&D. It doesn't have to be the base initial flavor that they give you, because at the end of the day, it's all mechanics. The actual function is the mechanics. The flavor doesn't much matter. Because just because Fighter has a subclass that is called Samurai does not mean you couldn't make another class and flavor it to function very much like a Samurai. Bard is Ranger? Maybe? I don't know. I don't know that Bard is Ranger, actually. I don't even know if Bard is Bard. I don't know that Bard, more like Red Mage in 14 functions more like a Bard. Bard in 14 functions kind of like paladin if you think about it, because like your songs are essentially your auras, right? Bard doesn't have like a party-wide buff ability, aside from some spells, I guess. I would say Bard in 14 is not anything like Ranger. I don't think any class in 14 is like Ranger, because no class in 14 has anything to do with the terrain or environment that you're in, which is the primary focus of Ranger. Ranger has nothing to do with bows and arrows. They have features that supplement it, but Ranger is all about the environment that you're in. Maybe ninja? I don't know. Maybe. Thing is, I'm not that familiar with Ranger. I just know that Ranger is not bow person. That is a misconception. There are features that supplement you having a ranged weapon, but Ranger does not inherently need to mean bow. Like cleric with a bow, yeah. Yeah, Bard could be a cleric with a bow, I think. But again, you know, this is my interpretation. I'm sure you could somehow find a way to make any class work like any job in 14 and just reflavor it. Like, I'm just talking about function on just purely on a mechanical basis, because flavor can be anything. You can reflavor anything. Am I sick? No, I'm not sick. I am hoarse though. Yeah, like I said earlier, your voice is like a muscle. You gotta exercise it, and I have not, and I think that is why I'm struggling with it right now, because several weeks of not streaming and not talking to anybody, and then a couple of days of doing it intensely will do things to it, because I have not built up the vocal muscles to do this. Or at least I have not exercised my voice quite a bit in a while, so. Lunar crud, yeah. But let's see. It seems as though what they've done on this homebrew is actually make original classes for the most part, which I think is the easiest way to actually make the classes faithful to 14, is make original ones. Although some of them they have made subclasses, some of them they made like completely original new like full classes like paladin, fighter, ranger, all that stuff like that. Some of them are subclasses, like ninja is a subclass of rogue, monk is subclass of monk, except they call it Way of Ralger, which is pretty cool. Oath of Vengeance fits Dark Knight's themes more. Yeah, maybe themes wise, but we gotta think what functionally works like Dark Knight. What is a, I think the close, like the Blackest Knight. What would you say is the mechanical equivalent of the Blackest Knight, right? And maybe there isn't one. Like, think about what makes Dark Knight, aside from theme. So Dark Knight has like Blackest Knight, It has salted earth, you know. That very much sounds like a spirit guardians to me, although it doesn't move with you. Zealot barbarian, yeah, perhaps. It is definitely a martial class because it seems like one that attacks quickly, so you definitely have multi-attack. Because they have so many OG CDs, right? Abyssal Drain. That's gotta be like, not false life, but yeah. See, this is what I mean by there are certain skills that do not translate to D&D, like Blood Weapon. The closest equivalent to Blood Weapon would be an attack that gives you spell slots, which is not a thing in D&D. For good reason, of course. Spell slots are very valuable and powerful. Dark Missionary, you know, I think that could be a shoe-in for Paladin because it sounds like an aura. That's another thing that 14 does that does not translate well. Like, the only way you could make a white mage is Life Cleric. And even then, you would not be healing as efficiently as a white mage. You would be very efficient in healing, but not as efficient as a white mage. Partly because, again, the MP deal. Spell slots are limited, MP is not. And also, in D&D, you are dealing more damage than you are healing most of the time. On average, there are more avenues to deal damage than to heal. So not that you have to play fully optimally, but the optimal way to play would be to outdamage your opponent and kill them before they kill you, which of course some people might argue is very 14, but 14 is very back and forth with your health bar and stuff. Healers need to deal damage as well. Yeah. Celestial Warlock fits Scholar? Maybe. I don't know anything about Celestial Warlock. But yeah, here, I'm gonna link the homebrew page for anyone who wishes to check it out. There it is. That's the one that I've been looking at. It seems neat. I'm interested, actually, in Black Mage. How do they do Black Mage? Because that is a class that casts so much that you need lots of spell slots. So, how do you do it? Black Mage, here. We'll look at it together. Black Mage. It's an original class. It is not a subclass of, say, Wizard, for example. The Black Mage is kind of busted. Well, of course, there is no feasible way to faithfully translate the casters in 14 into D&D and not have them broken. The only way to make them balanced is to make them not as faithful. Spells are not cast in D&D as common as 14, and also spells in D&D are more devastating than 14, mechanically anyway. In lore, I'm sure a simple fire spell is very powerful, but mechanically, one of the most powerful spells, Despair and Flare, only do a small amount of damage to the enemy, right? That is for mechanical reasons. That is not a lore. It's more like longhand, you know. They gotta pad out the time it takes so that gameplay can happen. but in D&D, gameplay is quote-unquote faster with smaller numbers, just so you're not in combat for so long. D&D mages are kind of always be casting, yeah, but cantrips are not. So like 14 spells are in this weird middle ground where they're stronger than cantrips, but they're not as powerful as leveled spells. And the closest thing we have to that is physical attacks, really. Yeah, Fire 4 is not a cantrip. Fire 4 is like a 3rd level spell or a 4th level spell. I mean, it's in the name, Fire 4, but you cast it so many times, right? But I don't know, maybe you could fudge the lore around and just say that mechanics in the world do not function like the mechanics in the game. Like, we don't know the actual in-lore physical stress casting Fire 4 does. So we just are able, like, because lore and gameplay sometimes conflicts, so we don't know the strain that might put on a person unless the game specifically says. So maybe it'd be fine to make a black mage just like a wizard. Ooh, the glamour contest is going. Ooh. If you guys would like to watch the glamour contest in full, it is being streamed at twitch.tv/shenpai. And I am not there, even though I was invited, because I am interested in seeing the Final Fantasy D&D stuff. I'm sure they're going to talk about a lot of the stuff that I talked about. All right, so class features. A D6, so, you know, like a wizard. Yeah, it seems very wizard base. Yeah, intelligence, wisdom. Makes sense. Persuasion, that's an interesting one. I guess being a thaumaturge does get you some pull. Okay. Cantrip, spellbook. Yeah, so far this looks like wizard. Copying spells, yeah. Mana font. Okay, here's the first feature that is a deviation. Is this official? No, absolutely not. This is fan-made. This is a homebrew. At first level, you have unlocked the secrets of storing magical energies in your body and utilizing it to assist your spell. You have 1 mana point, and you gain more as you reach higher levels, as shown in the mana point column on the Black Mage table. You can never have more mana points than shown on the table. You regain all spent mana points when you finish a long rest, so that sounds like spell slots. When you cast a spell, the residual mana from your spell temporarily creates ley lines, which can be manipulated with your mana font. If you cast a spell last turn and have not moved or taken any other action during your turn, you may spend a number of mana points equal to that spell's level to cast an evocation spell equal to or lower than that level without expending a spell slot. Okay. And I immediately see how this is broken. Because wizards don't want to move all that much anyway. Unless it's to get out of the way. But once you find a spot to hunker down and hide, and if your allies are keeping the attention of the bad guys, you should be good. Yeah, that's already broken. sorcerer's better font of magic? Yeah. At 2nd level, you choose the discipline you belong to as a black mage. Oh, they're adding subclasses. Bringers of the End. Wait, what? Void Mage. All detailed at the end of the class description. Your archetype choices grant you features. Okay, yeah, they do have archetypes. The Maki are mages who specialize in destructive arts. Okay, where's the mana font chart? Where is it? Oh, there it is. Mana points. Okay, yeah, there we go. So you can do it only once, but maybe once is all you need. So level 2. What's a hold on. Must expend a slot of the spell's level or higher. You regain all of that. If you cast a spell last turn and have not moved or taken any other action during your turn, you may spend a number of mana points equal to that spell's level to cast an evocation spell equal to or lower than that level. Okay, you know what? Actually, I misread that. That's not too bad because you basically spend mana points for one free spell, essentially. Not forever, just for that turn. You're essentially doubling your spell slots at the cost of your movement. Okay, I'm understanding it better. That might still be too powerful, but not as powerful as I thought. You could repeatedly use mana points for a few turns, yes, but you will run out of mana points. Your mana points don't come back. They're essentially an extra spell slot, from what it sounds like. Yeah. Okay. So it's a wizard that pumped everything into essentially having more spell slots at the cost of the utility that they normally would have. So, and it's specifically evocation spells. So you are just hunkering down. You are a siege unit. Okay. You are a sieging DPS, which makes sense. I mean, all classes in D&D are DPS, but you know what I mean. Yeah, you give up utility for the ability to deal more damage. Alright. I think I would just tell someone to make a wizard. I think because I'm more familiar with official D&D stuff, and I can't tell how broken or strong these features would be, and I don't know them, so I wouldn't be able to know how they work on the top of my head. I would just tell someone to make official D&D class. And I would help them find mechanics that would flavor them properly, or that would function properly, and then just reflavor them. Isn't the best part of homebrew being broken? Not for me, personally. If I want broken, there's plenty in the base game to make broken. Homebrew is usually in attempts to fulfill a fantasy that the base game does not. At least how I understand the appeal. You make a homebrew when there isn't something available in the base game that suits your tastes. But there's so much official out there that I would argue try to exhaust your options first, because mechanics can fill most of this is just mechanics. People, I think, are too caught up in the flavor text that is written to accommodate them, when the flavor doesn't really matter. Monk does not have to be the monk that they describe. You don't have to be a monk by practice. Same with bard, same with fighter. Like, they are just mechanics at the end of the day. That is my take on the Final Fantasy XIV homebrew thing. But it's neat. I wouldn't shame anyone for using it. It's just not I am not personally into it myself, but I would not mind playing in a game with it. I mean, it might be fun. It's a work in progress. All homebrew is a work in progress. There is no... I mean, I'm sure there's some homebrew that's like pretty nice and like fine-tuned. Hell, official D&D is not... It is a constant work in progress. Yeah, class does not equal character. Yeah. If I ran a game, you would play. If it was short and I could make the time. What are your wishes they would change for D&D 5.5? Make the character creation process more customizable, because as it is now, Warlock, I feel, is one of the only classes, if not the only one, that I truly feel has a decent amount of personalization for your character. Oh, thank you, Danny. Because after you make a few characters, you start to realize that aside from picking spells and the odd feature here and there, there's not a lot to customize your character with. You don't create your character until level 3, yeah. It feels like a lot of classes you don't really make your character except every like 3 or 4 levels. Now, granted, I understand that customization is a tightrope balance. The reason why 5e is so accessible is because of that lack of requiring you to make choices in customizing your character. It is very accessible, it's very easy to make a character and get into, because most of it is just you pick a class and you copy the features into your character sheet. And then that's kind of it. You know, that's very casual, that's very easy to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. Most accessible, and I'm still confused, yeah. It's simple, and that was its rise to fame, yeah. But I'm not saying that it needs to be Pathfinder. But I think a few extra additions could be nice. Like, maybe instead of picking ability scores or a feat at 4th level, I believe it would be more fun if you got both every 2 levels. Maybe that's too soon. Maybe that's too quick. Maybe 3 levels. I don't know the specific balance that would be needed, but I would like the ability to pick features more frequently, because I think features are, if you just add the ability for players to pick features more frequently, I think that would fix, that would easily fix. Maybe that would make it too broken. But let's say you pick a feature at 2nd level, and then you improve your ability scores at 4th, and then pick a feature at 6th, etc., etc. I would say that simple change would personalize your character a lot more. Or the DM could give feats to players as rewards. Well, yeah, I mean, if you say if you're talking about what DMs can do anything. I'm talking about the official game, which of course has no bearing over each individual game and individual table. But if we're talking about how to fix the official game, like the base game, that's how I believe you would do it. Of course, the real way to fix it is to just make your own rules at your table, make house rules, you know. But I'm purely talking about the base D&D, because if you make the argument, oh, you can house rule it, well then there's nothing to fix in D&D. I'm talking about official stuff. If there was an official 5.5, that's what I would like to see in it. And, you know, if people don't like it, they can just ignore it. Just like there are plenty of official things that I ignore and add, you know. Yeah, rule 1 is the DM can do whatever they want. Yeah, of course. With that understanding. Feat like actor has to compete with feats like sharpshooter. Yeah, you would have to rebalance them, but I think they don't have to be balanced, because, like, firstly, I feel like that's impossible to do, and secondly, you know, it's okay to have bad feats, either for flavor or for the mechanical novelty. Some people want to try out a mechanic in the game knowing that it might be bad, just because they want to try it out. You know, I sometimes try to make a claw deck playing the defect in Slay the Spire, knowing that it's most likely not going to work and be bad, but I do it anyway because it's fun. I think bad feats are allowed to exist, and good feats are allowed to exist, with certain caveats. I always nerf Sentinel. Sentinel is too strong. I always say, you know, no more than one size larger, because that is ridiculous. If you do that, you might need to level gate things in terms of feats or skills. There are already gates for that. There are already requirements, you know, like this feat requires, and like some feats and skills don't help you if you don't have the complementary things to it, you know. So here's the thing, right? I'm gonna level with you, chat. D&D is already broken. Let's be honest. Let's be real. There are already so many min-maxing builds and combinations that you could make with the content that we have right now. It's very easy to break the game. But you know what? People don't do that. So I don't think doing all of this would break it any further than it already is. I am not scared of breaking D&D. I say as someone who says that they're not going to use the 14 homebrew, but that's more because I'm not familiar with it rather than because it's broken. But D&D is already broken. There's no use. It's a fool's errand to try and balance D&D. I mean, you can balance it as best you can, and I think with the changes to Ranger in Tasha's guide, it's as close to balance as you can possibly get. And it's not just about balance of effectiveness. It's about balance of fun and time. I think that's a thing people need to understand about D&D is Wizards balances what is based on what people enjoy doing and how long it takes to do in combat. I think that is why they nixed Mystic, because Mystic does not fill a fantasy, i.e. fun factor that the other classes don't already fill, like Wizard or Sorcerer or Warlock, because it just feels like another wizard. And also, their features took too long in combat to do compared to the other classes at the same level. Some of the subclasses, the Cannibalized Mystic into are really cool too. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Hell, if I'm gonna say something blasphemous, I feel like they could even cull down a lot of the classes. Like, you could, if you wanted to streamline the classes even more and purely make them mechanically flavored, I think you could cull down, like, Bard. Like, Bard, I feel, as much as I love Bard, I think Bard could be a rogue subclass, for example, because they share a lot of the same things. They have a D8 hit die, they get expertise. You just need to make an archetype, a rogue archetype that gives you Jack of all trades and bardic inspiration and spellcasting. I'm glad it's not, and that it is its own class, but if you wanted to narrow them down, you could say Bard is a rogue subclass. Paladin could be a fighter subclass, or even not be a subclass. Like, you could just multi-class fighter cleric to be a paladin. What else? Ranger could be a fighter subclass, or a rogue subclass, or a druid subclass, because it has factors of all three. Yeah, Barbarian could also be a fighter subclass. Warlock and Sorcerer. Warlock, I think, is so unique that it still has to be its own thing. Warlock is not a caster. I think that's a common misconception. It can cast, but Warlock is not a caster. Warlock is a utility, like, augment yourself, customize thing. Could they be merged in a way? No, I think Sorcerer could be merged into Wizard. Warlock, I don't think, can be merged into anything because it's too unique in how it works. Nothing works like Warlock. Maybe Artificer could be merged into Warlock, and vice versa. I don't know. Not sure. Pact of Blade Reaper, that could be cool. That could be very cool. All right, it's almost time for the panel. I'm gonna load up the thing. Watch here, there we go. So if you would like to watch the panel without my annoying commentary over it, it is going to be on twitch.tv/Lunarcon_official2. So you can watch the raw stream there, or if you miss it, you can rewatch the VOD either on here or on the why did I typed black because I tried to control F black mage on the PDF. Apologies. Let's see. All right, here we go. There it is. Looks like they're getting their slideshow going. Hold on. What's that? Let's see. There we go. Black. Following the new modern D20 project, and it seems the way they're doing classes is having the class be the main stat they utilize, and the subclass is the actual flavor, which makes a class unique. Like Paladin would be a charisma or strength class subclass. That could be one way of doing it, and making it easier for new players to understand. Potentially, but I feel that may limit people's ability to make versatile class builds. Like, let's say I wanted to be a dexterity paladin, right? If I have to be strength charisma to be paladin, then that rules out dexterity paladin, which is a totally valid way to go, right? Or what if I want to go full tank paladin and not worry about my damage, like constitution charisma, and just not worry about strength or dexterity, just full on tank build. I think the strength of D&D's versatility in building the character is that you are not beholden to any specific style of build for any of the classes. Yeah. But I don't know, maybe there is a value in streamlining even further. Because some people might not realize those options are open to them in the first place. So there wouldn't be any harm in doing that. And the more experienced players would know that you're not beholden to the flavor. So it might be worth considering. For every instance I find a potential flaw, I'm sure somebody else could find a potential benefit. Because game design, tabletop game design, is not a science. There is no right or wrong answers, only interpretations and practice. Change the class system completely. Instead of pre-made classes, you pick and choose freely from all class features. Some limitations on what you can choose, like some traits making... Yeah. That would be fun for anyone who is not already overwhelmed by the choices available. The downside I see in that is potential choice paralysis. It does sound appealing to me, personally, though. I would love that. That would be cool. I'm not sure since Tasha's has a section about flavor gear on spells. Yeah. Now, granted, all of this is with the perspective that players playing stereotypical classes is like there's something wrong with that, which there isn't. There is nothing wrong with playing a paladin like a stereotypical paladin, or a ranger as a stereotypical ranger as you would perceive it. It's not a problem to play the character that you want to play, no matter how common or stereotypy or tired tropey it is. As long as that's the character you want to play, that's all that matters. Everyone's playing a trope? Yeah, there you go. Some people just want to play tropes. Some people just want to be John Fighterman. It creates a situation like FF12 where everyone just takes the same set of abilities. Maybe. But that's their choice, you know. That is the player choice.
So, can everyone hear me? I hope
hey,
so.
it's Poi! Hi, Poi!
Settings.
I'm very tired today. Have you been able to attend Lunarcon at all? Poi, everybody. VTuber. She recently had a debut with her cool new model. How you doing, Poi?
Yeah! Alright. I'll drop the volume of the music down just a little so it's easier to hear me. I'm not good at streaming, I'll be honest. But that's not why I'm here today. Today I'm here to explain how to include D&D into your... Final Fantasy into your D&D campaigns.
Yes, I'm
not
very
the other way
interested.
around. That's a different idea. Let's do some quick introductions. Hi, I'm Azrael. I'm also Aro, or Arosi. You might know me. I was in the Esprit show, as, leader of it. But, hey, I wear multiple hats. Not in-game because I play Hrothgar, but I do wear multiple hats. I love D&D. I'm all about immersive experiences. I'm all about merging about different aspects from different things into roleplay experiences. And this is just one of those kind of pathways that I go with. Yeah, Rip Brovgar. I'm in a ton of campaigns now, and honestly, think about starting even more.
Same.
I love not having free time. I just love working on D&D stuff constantly.
Same.
Quick history. I've been playing 14 since about the end of Stormblood, so I'm not new, but I'm not like old to the game. But I have been playing Dungeons and Dragons for about 5 years. So hey, I like to combine things a bit. I do more DMing than I do playing normally. I mean, I love both, but like, I'm normally found in a position of DMing more. So this is all coming from the angle of a DM,
just realized.
but can easily be merged into a mindset of a player, especially with
Look at that waistline.
some of the other ideas that I'll be introducing.
Damn.
Now, before we begin,
This outfit,
I
like,
am aware that there is a
Jessica
supplement
Rabbit
that
looking
adds
mess.
Final Fantasy XIV jobs and races into D&D. This is not a
Damn,
panel
that
covering
waistline.
that. I didn't want to,
I'm
step
tired.
on their toes, claim any of their stuff as my own, stuff like that. Instead, this is all new stuff or stuff that wasn't included into that supplement. I highly suggest checking it out. Just type it in into Google. It's probably going to be the first thing you see.
Hourglass Rothgar.
Instead, we'll be going over a few things. Four things specifically. Some magic items that you can just steal and put them into your games. Super simple. I'll have I have a list. I'll post on Twitter. That way you guys can click on it, because I don't think I can post links into this chat for that, unless there's a moderator here listening that might help me out with that. Second, Materia, a brand new system talking for how to enhance your weapons in new, exciting ways. Relic weapons, which is a special magic item that will grow alongside the player. And then we have battle mechanics, because the amount of times that you see a mechanic in Final Fantasy XIV and be like, yeah, you could probably translate that into D&D.
I actually have.
Shockingly high.
I have given, and this is a thing that UDMs can also steal, I have given basically telegraphs for some big attacks and environmental stuff in my D&D games. Like if they're fighting an enemy and the enemy, like, I don't know, hits a chandelier, and I say, oh, the chandelier, the chain starts to break. It looks like it might fall on the next turn, give them a chance to move out of the way. Yeah.
These are slightly reskinned or repurposed from magic items that already exist in D&D supplements. There will be a few that aren't on this list that I will just be going over, that are on my handy dandy cheat sheet that I'll post later. But that there also are a few that I'll add, and I'll preface with these aren't tested or anything like that. But we'll get that road when we get there. All right. So first up then. So some interesting reskins that we can easily pull up is the Link Shell. So in Dungeons and Dragons, let me pull up my handy dandy little cheat sheet real quick.
Yeah, there we go. See, this is what I was
setting.
This is what I was talking about, that it's like you just need to reflavor things. Like a link shell is just a sending stone, Like there are plenty of things already in the mechanics of D&D that you can just reflavor. There's no need to go through the trouble of homebrewing, Unless you want to, I guess. I can't stop you.
On the nose for exactly what the thing can be. Oh, wrong side. Sorry. These stones, everyone knows what a link shell is, but from D&D aspect, it will you touch it, and then you just cast an action, and you'll be able to do the sending spell to each other. And then you can make a whole network of link shells or sending stones. This is a fairly useful item to give pretty early on to a player group. There's no real risk to this because you have to speak. You'll have to be like, hey, these are things that people have to talk through, so you can't be like, I speak through my mind, and the enemy around me can't hear me because I'm using my link shell. Actually, no. These are talking ones. There is a version of it that you can like converse thoughts, but we're just talking. Let's see, we're here. Oh, yes, we just started. I'm just going over a few of reskin magic items that you can just throw into your games with little to no risk. All right. Up next, we have the Chocobo Saddlebag. It's a little play on words for the aspect of how the Chocobo Saddlebag kind of works in game, where it's like, it's not bottomless. God, I wish it was bottomless. But it is a
there we go.
Bag of holding, basically. So that is, but it just has, the Chocobo theming, how it works in game, where it's just like a pocket dimension that you can just hold additionally large items. Everyone knows what the bag of holding is. I don't have to explain that, really. It's just a big bag. But yeah. Moving on to the more unique style ones. We have the Morble's Bulb. Now, this one is...
I see a poi in game.
A rare item. It's classified as an uncommon item. This is a reskin of the Necklace of Adaptation.
Guys, look. It's a poi.
This one is interesting where when you wear it, gas and vapors don't affect you nearly as badly as they would without the necklace, which is interesting because everyone knows Morbles use bad breath, so I thought it would be a pretty interesting merger of using the bulb to block or reduce the amount of effects from, bad breath effects in D&D. This is stuff like Cloud Kill, which is a really lethal spell, especially at high levels. Is a great AoE.
Oh, you know what I just realized? Asuna would be so strong in D&D. Asuna is basically lesser or greater restoration. Which is what is that, like a 3rd level, 4th level spell? Basically a restoration spell, which is so strong. And you can cast it so fast. It costs like no mana.
Breath weapons that are like poison, that this would also affect, which is pretty useful. Although poison can be kind of known as the weakest damage type in Dungeons and Dragons, but that's not what we're here for. That's a different thing entirely. All right, moving on to one of the more interesting style ones. We have the very rare bracer called the Esteem. Obviously, this is a play on the Dark Knight's Esteem, where it will summon a second version, or excuse me, not a second version of you. I mean, we all know who it is. I'm not going to say it is, just in case. I don't want to touch spoilers if you don't know who that is. But, a friend joins you in the fray, smiley face. This mimics that effect where you're allowed to cast a cantrip and then use a bonus action to cast another cantrip. I would like to think of it like the ranged
Sleep
attack that Dark Knights do.
I don't know.
Obviously,
Sleep. The thing is, D&D is a lot more meticulous and fine-tuned than 14. The 14, how you defeat your enemy is the same every time. You kill them, or you bring their HP to 0. In D&D, because of the roleplay aspect, your means of success and your win condition can be anything. And sleep is just one of those means. So it's still useful, I'd say. like, because you can't really choose to talk to your enemy in 14 unless it's a cutscene and it, has predetermined you to talk to them, right? You don't make choices in 14's story. You choose what dialogue you pick, but you don't make choices. Whereas D&D is all about choices. D&D is you interacting with a fictional world, with fictional people, and just as many possibilities as the real world. But would the bosses be resistant to sleep? I guess that's up to the DM, right? This is all talking with the assumption that it would work like D&D. You could very well run D&D like it's Final Fantasy. I think it would take a lot of work and like hammering out the mechanics to make them shoehorn a lot of 14 mechanics in, but you could do it. Yeah. To the point, I'm sure someone has managed to run D&D in 14. Like maybe in a house where they can spawn in, like the DM would be the house owner or a tenant that can decorate it and adjust things, make a grid on the floor, and then make target dummies as the enemy or something like that. It would take a lot of work. D&D LARP. Maybe.
In the bubble at dawn, so you get every day you get 1 hour of breathable time underwater. This is a reskin from the breathing bubble in the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, and this is a common item. They
use that system in RP events. Yeah, there is a roll system. You can slash random in 14, and that works. Slash random. And then you roll, like, look, I just rolled a 658, So. Or you could do, like, slash roll 20. Or slash roll 1 to 20. How do you limit your rolls? Dice 20. Slash dice 20, all one word. It's not working for some reason. Weird.
Like 14 uses them. So I reused this item for.
There we go. It's slash random 20.
Terrain, which is terrain that cuts your movement speed in half. Won't affect you. So you'll be able to walk through like.
Yeah, the command is slash random space the die size.
In addition, magic can't slow you down or reduce you to paralyzed.
You sound tired. Did you get enough sleep? No, I didn't. I'll be okay though. It might be a shorter stream. I won't make it to the closing ceremony. But yeah.
In game, so this is just mimicking that kind of effect. I have some more. Some others that I really liked was the wind-up minion item. I don't have this on the slide. I do have it on my list. Once again, I will post that on my Twitter. I will drop the link to my Twitter at the end of the
maybe even
the show,
just
so
after this panel.
You gotta keep watching if you want this list.
Let's see what else is on the schedule.
The wind-up minion,
I don't think there's much today. It's a shorter day. I don't think there's much today that I want to do. Actually, you know what? I will do one thing with you guys. I want to finish up that Spooky Slice script, or at least get more of it done as much as I can. And then send you guys on over to Shen afterwards.
Is just like a small toy doll that will repeat 6 words back to you if you tell it a condition. I'd like to imagine this as like the idle animations that minions do with each other, or just solo by themselves sometimes, where it will just do things. And
do
this
the
is a
spooky
reskin of
slice.
the talking doll from Xanthar's Guide to Everything. Another one that I want to call out as a neat item is the axe called the Bloodbath. It doesn't have to be an axe. If you want to reskin it as another weapon, you can. I just have it as an axe for this example. When you attack a creature with this magic item and you roll a nat 20, that enemy takes 10 additional necrotic damage, and you gain 10 temporary HP. So it's just a little extra reward for hitting things, and mimics the effect of Bloodbath pretty well as you're receiving more health. It's temporary HP, but in combat, temporary HP and regular HP are pretty interchangeable until after combat. Okay. Once again, I have additional ones, like the Midgard Storm's Blessing and Nidhogg's Wrath magical items.
Did they say Midgard Storm?
With ranging up to about legendary items, which grow in strength over time, if you want to do that. But one more magical item.
This person doesn't even Heaven's Word.
Se, but more of a combat enhancer, which will be Materia. For those new or unfamiliar with, is it still on the Garuda one?
No, it's on Materia.
Sorry.
You got it right. Don't worry.
Okay. You might have to. Okay, sorry.
That's one thing. That's one thing that is not a thing in D&D is aggro. You don't hold someone's aggro in D&D. You have to use a feature, like a feature or a spell to keep someone's attention on you. Because a creature could just ignore you and disengage and go attack someone else. So you can't really do the tank healer DPS thing like 14, unless, again, you homebrew it to work that way. Yeah. If you had some kind of like enmity point system, but then like, why even bother if the tank is gonna hold all the aggro, right? Like, why make, like, let's say you make a mechanic where as a bonus action you turn on your tank stance. Now you every attack you deal grants you five enmity points. You would have to make a whole enmity system, right? You would have to say all attacks deal one point, give you 1 point of enmity. The highest enmity the enemy will target the highest enmity, and then you give the tanks tank stance, which would give them more enmity. But then at that point, they would turn on tank stance and get the enmity, and the enmity mechanic might as well not be there because it's just going to focus on the tank the whole time anyway, because why would they ever turn it off, right? That's a thing where it doesn't translate to a tabletop setting. It works well for a video game mechanic, but not for a tabletop setting. See, like, because with tabletop, because things take more time and you're talking more and you're saying what you do rather than pressing a button, like the time it takes for you to perform a thing in tabletop compared to the time it takes to perform a thing in a video game is like could be minutes of difference. So that's why with tabletop you have to cull all the unnecessary stuff. You have to trim the fat, right? You have to trim the fat. And you also have to consider, what does this add to the game, right? Tank stance and enmity and aggro in 14 and most MMOs are meticulously designed with the rest of the mechanics of the game in mind. 5e is not designed with an enmity system in mind, and you would have to develop it from the ground up. Like, the foundations of it would have to include things that account for enmity, right? Just makes it more likely. How so? You know, like what we need to think logistically. How does that work? Does that mean if they have tank stance, you roll a d20 to see if they lose aggro? In which case, how do you determine the enemy picks someone else in the first place, right? Give advantage to monsters or so when they attack the tank. But there's a feature that does that already. See, there's a challenger feat, basically, that demands a creature attack you or else have disadvantage. Like, that already exists, right? And it works the way that works for D&D. Such as you have a 6-person party, one is tank, D20. Tank. Yeah, I don't know. To me, personally, it just sounds like extra bloat that just adds more time to combat. And combat already takes way too much time, see? So for me, I wouldn't use it purely because it would just add more time to combat. Because again, tabletop takes a lot longer than video games. Yeah, there we go, like Zid says. It has no place in tabletop unless the tabletop has been built with enmity in mind. I will acknowledge that I'm sure there are exceptions where it could work, but I feel the game would have to be built around it. Enmity works in 14 because 14 is built around enmity. 14 is designed around the enmity system. D&D is not, and I feel as though trying to shoehorn it in would take a lot of time, or it would require a lot of planning or time to figure out how to make it work. So at that point, for me, why bother, right?
Your crit, if you get a crit, do full damage. Just, let's say you do a 2d6 on, I think that's what, a greatsword? A 2d6. No, that's not
yeah, that's another thing, is like tabletop is a lot of role-playing as well, so it's like, these are not bots. The enemies, unless you specifically run them that way, you know, of course everyone can choose to run the game however they want, but the D&D that I run, the enemies are not just numbers and AI that will respond based on whatever code demands them to. I try to run them anyway, like real living beings with thoughts and opinions and interests and certain behaviors in mind that are not limited by video game code. So an enmity system would not, you know, fit that fantasy that I am trying to establish. Yeah. That is not to say that makes the characters in 14 robots. Like the AI in 14 functions the way it does for the sake of gameplay, not storytelling. You know, it's not like if they were to tell a story, like Raubon didn't attack Ilberd because Ilberd had enmity on Raubon. You know, that's not how that works in storytelling. It's but that would function in game that way because that's how the mechanics work, right? He kind of had, but like, for example, if the Warrior of Light also started to attack Ilberd, it's not like Ilberd would not attack the Warrior of Light in defense, because he has aggro on Raubon, right? That wouldn't make sense in a story. But I don't know if I'm making sense. But yeah, D&D is incomparable to a video game because it's not a video game. It's a role-playing game, a tabletop role-playing game. So it plays different. The only tanking I can imagine in a tabletop RPG is Wall of Force that forces them to be locked into a 1v1 with the tank. Yeah, essentially. That's like the only way to do it. And even then, maybe they can somehow break out of the wall, you know? You are not limited by your mechanics in tabletop. You are limited by your imagination.
That allows you to cast 2 spells in 1 turn. Typically in D&D, you're not allowed to cast 2 spells in 1 turn.
Also, I've been talking over it, but this materia system sounds really cool, actually.
I know some
It's basically the feat system. I kind of like it.
stuff. But, yeah.
Here's the other one that if you can't see it, hold on.
Caster,
There's Piety.
this is,
Sorry, I was blocking it.
Basically the only way that you'll be able to do both. These are rare items, of course. I'm curious.
Feats in the form of items, yeah.
Weapon. Yes. We'll get to relic weapons in just a second, but the cap will be 5 at a completely maxed out relic weapon. Relic weapons will come in stages. Smite can stack on so much dice to be bigger than rogues potentially. Absolutely. Who doesn't love?
You know what? Craft Dragon, that I think would be the way to do it. Make it an aura. Although that feature might already exist. I don't know.
Have issues? Not me, I'm the DM. Hey. Is it not the job of the DM to make sure everyone's having fun?
Yes.
I think seeing big number go up is fun.
Yes.
Not fun effects and the worries. There's 115 different iode stones. Holy crap. Sounds like someone has a larger materia idea than I do. Feral. Alright, for our final stuff, we have the Piety and the Battle Dance materia. I know that says the wrong thing. I forgot to change it. My bean. It will be a free action, yes. Sorry. Completely free action to burn it, and then you can burn as many that you have equipped and attuned to your weapon. So if you want to just go crazy 1 turn and burn all 5 of them, absolutely. Would I recommend it? Probably not. These are rare items, so I wouldn't want to burn it unless it's like the big bad. But if you have that option and you want to do it, you could maybe do that. Okay, the Battle Dance. On a hit, you'll receive half as many temporary health points that you did in damage back for about 10 minutes. So if you did 20 damage to someone, congratulations, you have 10 temporary HP health back. This is
Sounds
to
like
mimic
the talisman item
tenacity.
system in Pathfinder. It might be.
The effect in 14 where, you know, tanks, when they're doing their combo, can get back more health and stuff. This kind of mimics that effect. This is a great thing to maybe combine with the Savage Aim materia. So, like, you could make sure you get a ton of temporary HP pool. Okay, the Piety, I'm sorry, I'll fix it. This one is if you get a crit on something with a spell, like a spell attack, you receive 1 spell slot that is half the amount of the spell slot back, rounded down. That was a lie. What that actually
They're
means
explaining
is
it right now.
I cast a 4th level spell, a crit, then I would receive a 2nd level spell back. Or a 5th level spell, a crit, I would receive, rounded down, a 2nd level spell. Okay. That's been materia.
That feels extremely
but let's
weak.
talk about the weapon that can use this materia, which is your relic weapon. Alright, so
I don't know,
relic
maybe
weapon.
worth it. Once in a blue
These
moon.
In 14 are typically the best item that you can get in an expansion. Per that expansion. So in that expansion, it will be the best.
Did they explain how you obtain materia? Maybe they did, and I talked over it. I think you could make it a purchasable item, perhaps, or drop, or I don't know how an extraction system would work. Maybe like a ritual cast? Not sure.
Much. It was...
What if you cast a spell that has a saving throw? Yeah, actually, you can't crit on saving throws. That's true. Yeah, I feel Piety could use a rework. It's very weak.
Step in Moja where you actually were doing fates was like at least a little bit dynamic. Oh lord, dude, the same fight so many times. I was drooling outside my mouth. Anyway, let's move on to what defines a relic. These are normally grindy, long, arduous, but you put in a lot of work and they slowly get better and better. In D&D, that's perfect. Because you know who else does that?
My mom!
Yourself!
Oh.
Or at least the player character does. Your player character does. I'm just hosting it stream only, I'm sorry. Everyone else had like cool in-game stuff, but like my hands were tied. I had so...
You know who else likes to spend a lot of time getting the relic weapon? My mom!
It's just you, me, and the disembodied voice of myself telling you about weird D&D stuff.
This is why my voice is shot.
Anyhow, so your player character, and your weapon hold hands together. They both will grow together. What does that mean? What does it mean, grow? For your weapon, that's growing new feats onto your weapon. That's growing a slightly larger hit dice on your weapon. That's being able to grow more materia slots onto your weapon. Or for like weird hybrid classes, like the bard class that's also like a melee. I forget which one that is. I think it's the sword. Anyway, 3.5. Exactly. It is like the weapon of legacy, where it's a developing one. Because let's be real, most D&D campaigns, everyone's using like one or two weapons. College of Swords, thank you. You're probably not going to swap all that much between weapons. Like it's either like, yes, I have my main weapon, and then I have like my backup weapon just to be stuff. Would a black/white mage hybrid technically be a FF1 red wizard? Huh. Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. Now,
actually, no.
Cool?
A black mage, white mage fighter would be a red FF1 red mage, because red mage can wear more armor than black mages and white mages in FF1. They're the bard, you know. Again, red mage is more like a bard than the actual bard, because they're the jack of all trades, master of none. They could do a little bit of everything, but nothing specifically excelling at any one thing.
Time, and no one's really been able to crack the energy within the sword, except you can with time. Or maybe it's like a rare item that they find after they infiltrated like a dragon's horde or something, and it's a weapon of like crazy potential, but they have to form it with their own soul basically to get it to grow. These are interesting ways to introduce relic weapons. I don't think everyone starts a campaign with a relic weapon. These should be special items that you give to the player after a special event. Now, in Final Fantasy XIV, hey, it takes a little bit to, grind up each step to a relic weapon, and in D&D, it's not all that different. In regular D&D, upgrading an item costs, some gold and maybe some materials, and oh yay, I gotta find someone to make it a +1. Got it. For a relic weapon, let's take it a step further. Now, because they're used as aether conduits for the materia, you probably need some rare material to...
I'm sorry, chat. I am actually fading out. This might have been a bad day to stream. I know I've only been going for like an hour and a half, but I am about to collapse. So I'm gonna send you guys on over to Shen. I'm sorry I couldn't spend more time on this day of Lunarcon. But thank you for participating. I wish I could be there for the end of it, but I need to sleep. So I know Shen does more than me, but she is a real trooper. And we all have our own pace, so I'm gonna send you all on over to Shen. Thank you for coming to Lunarcon and coming to watch my stream as well for however long you were able to do it. Happy Lunarcon, everybody. Let's see. Let's do a raid message. Everybody, even though it's past, everybody say happy birthday to Shen, because yesterday was their birthday, but we're gonna say it again anyway. Say happy birthday to Shen for me. Good night, everyone.